My name is Antoinette, and I'm a member of the New Orleans Workers Group. This past week, the New Orleans Workers Group has played a leading role in directly engaging with our community through street actions, forums, and intentional organizing in response to the state-sanctioned violence resulting in the horrific murders of Breonna Taylor in Louisville, George Floyd in Minneapolis, and Tony McDade in Tallahassee. We needed to be in solidarity because even right here locally, Modesto Reyes, who was able to survive the egregious collapse of the Hard Rock Hotel in New Orleans, was unable to survive being murdered by Jefferson Parish Police in Marrero. We condemn these acts of state-sanctioned terror against Black life. We needed to take action because, as we have seen time and time again, that when we leave our fate to the hands of elected officials, when we somehow incorrectly expect the police to police themselves, and when we leave our fate in the hands of a system that has demonstrated time and time again its allegiance to the rich capitalist owners of private property, business, and corporation, that they fail us again and again. Let it be known that we do not believe that the police organizations can be reformed. They need to be entirely defunded and completely abolished. The function of the police in relationship to the state and the relationship to the working class has too many contradictions to ever be reconciled. So we say unequivocally to abolish the police, abolish prisons, jails, and other entities that reinforce police practices. And although there are those who push back against that type of stance, we push forward because we have taken the time to imagine a world without police and have begun practicing our own levels of accountability within our communities that materially demonstrate that as people, we can monitor and support ourselves when we don't have interference from the police or the state in pursuit of our own self-determination. While we choose to be on the front lines of fighting back, we simultaneously acknowledge and uplift the loved ones of those named and unnamed, known and unknown, who were left to contend with the trauma of state-sanctioned violence as they mourn the loss of a child, a parent, a partner, a friend, or a community member. We acknowledge the Black lives that were taken when there was no video recording to view. We acknowledge those who were lynched, whether it be swiftly by the bullet or excruciatingly slow through suffocation, or extended over time by way of systematic oppression in the areas of health, education, housing, food, and any other areas of our lives that is a requirement to live. Let me be clear. All of these white supremacist systems are rooted in capitalism, and the aim is to exploit the labor of the entire working class. Yet, there is a special, particular oppression that Black people face each and every day, and each and every minute of the day that cannot be denied historically. This understanding shows up in the material reality of the masses of lives of Black people who choose, which cause us to resist in the name of self-determination, for the purpose of our liberation and a chance at a future that proactively plans for our well-being, centering Black joy, centering life as we survive, and centering Black joy as we thrive. As Black people, we deserve a system that is designed to nurture actual Black joy. So as we do the intentional and deliberate work of organizing and engaging in movement work for the world that we want and need, we have undoubtedly heard loud and clear from members of the Black trans community about the representation of Black LGBTQ people, specifically Black trans and gender nonconforming people in the movement, and also a concern about their absence from the conversation. This is despite the role that Black trans and gender nonconforming people have always had at the forefront of the struggle, putting their bodies and personal safety on the line. It is only right that Black trans voices are uplifted and heard when the Black trans community is the most vulnerable, even more so for Black trans women. Not only are they impacted by the terror at the hands of police, but also as a result of internalized oppression that results in community violence against our trans siblings. So, during this important moment in history, as our people rise around the globe, we step fully into the challenge to rise as an organization determined to ensure that our principles and practices align. Therefore, let me take a moment to tell you a bit about the New Orleans Workers Group directly, as a leader in the organization. First, the New Orleans Worker Group is a revolutionary Marxist-Leninist organization. We are proud to be communist, and no red baiting will ever deter us. We are workers, employed and unemployed, youth, students, seniors. We are comprised of workers from diverse ages, nationalities, genders, orientations, and we organize for the unity of the working class. We are sustained by and for workers and are for the liberation of all workers and oppressed peoples. We recognize Marxist-Leninism as a living science, not a dead nor stagnant one. We acknowledge that there is an ever-changing world that requires recognizing the conditions of the day, which hold true to principles that guide clearly and consistently. We actively study theory and the history of past Marxists and fully understand that this history is not perfect, that there have been some tendencies and actions by reactionaries under the name of revolutionary practice that were actually counter-revolutionary and that excluded the liberation of LGBTQ people. We undoubtedly realize the need for and welcome the membership of trans women, specifically Black trans women. We are equally committed to a work that does not engage in tokenization of any peoples, nor compromise with our dedication to the study of Marxist-Leninist principles which guide our framework during modern times and application. We honor and respect and also study the words and actions of those Black revolutionaries who were deeply inspired by Marxist theories. Revolutionaries such as Assata Shakur, Claudia Jones, C.L. James, Amina Baraka, Grace P. Campbell, Harry Hayward, Fred Hampton, and the entire Black Panther Party. There are lessons to be learned from the analysis and struggle-oriented work of these revolutionaries and more. However, the living science is where we ground ourselves because it gives us the opportunity to assess and determine our best efforts in our organizing work according to our current conditions. We in the workers group have committed to contending with how we can create a space where the brilliance of our individual identities flourish while we remain committed through word and action to raising the class consciousness of our people, which means the working class, who has more in common with each other than we could ever have with any rich ruling class elite. We do this through educating, agitating, and organizing. We at the New Orleans Workers Group know that there are many nations of people, and although our LGBTQ siblings are not a nation, they are absolutely a present and essential part of every nation. Until LGBTQ workers are free, none of us are free. Our Black, trans, and gender nonconforming siblings are a necessary voice in the struggle for our collective liberation. Police and state-sanctioned violence has plagued the trans community across the country and locally. The murders of Black trans women are not adequately investigated. And our trans siblings also face high levels of police harassment. Black trans voices and principled leadership is fundamental if we are going to achieve a liberation. We are very clear that without gender liberation, and without trans liberation, especially Black trans liberation, there is no revolution. Simultaneously, we as Marxist-Leninist revolutionaries are dedicated to the obliteration of the poisons of white supremacy, male supremacy, cis supremacy, heterosexism, national chauvinism, and all other forms of oppression within and without our movement. Now, this is where we find ourselves experiencing conflict from others, because we know that just as there is racism, there is internalized racism. Just as there is heteropatriarchy, there is internalized gender oppression. And even though we are clear that a system of exploitation and oppression creates the conditions for this internalization, we must hold ourselves accountable and still maintain a level of self-discipline and intentional, loving, while firm accountability. This is important because we are a serious revolutionary organization, serious about liberation, and no serious organization would tolerate members that intentionally aim to be destructive in any way to the efforts of the organization to which they choose to join. We are an organization that affirms the collective effort, and this runs contradictory to the ways capitalism teaches the masses to prioritize individualism. When individualism is not in alignment with our organizational principles, members are autonomous beings that have the opportunity to choose growth within the organization or their own separate path. By having a guiding revolutionary program and organizing principles that prioritize reliability, consistency, honesty, courageousness, and solution-oriented communication, we expect our membership to adhere as such as any serious organization would. And although this requires a level of both self and organizational discipline, we understand imperfection and mistakes, hardships and personal traumas, and yet and still, as long as members are willing to grow and develop with integrity as the guide, there is both room and support for such in the New Orleans Workers Group. Every principled person and organization ought to have some clear standards, clear expectations, room for accountability, and room for growth. And when people leave our organization because the political alignment is not there, or the self-discipline is not there, or the timing is not there, it does not mean that the stars may not align at a later time and allow us to collaborate together again. But actions will always speak louder than words. Patterns and trends over time will always speak louder than words. And if we are building a new world that offers space for truth and reconciliation, healing and transformation, then when new patterns and trends emerge with the consistency of new healthy behavior, then we should all find room in our awareness to know that people can change. There are words and there are deeds, and we hold ourselves to demonstrating our commitment to our working class siblings in an action-oriented way. We understand the need to hold each other accountable, whether we be young or elder, Black or white, lesbian, gay, bi or straight, cisgender or transgender. We are an organization of many queer members, and we are all held accountable to a higher standard. Free passes within our own identity groups is of no help to the movement. We also are peaceful in knowing that our organization is not for everyone. Everyone does not have to be a member to work in coalition. However, even then, our priority and allegiance is to the working class and not aligned to working for permission from others, whether they be members of the petty bourgeoisie, corporations, or the state that sanctions violence against our lives. We prioritize the working class. And while we oppose exploitation and oppression, we are clear that whether the oppressor comes in a white body or a melanated body, we are all accountable to the standard to which we all can rise. We are on a serious mission to manifest a world that has not yet been seen. We practice it into existence, even when challenging, even when difficult. Where can we grow as an organization? We can grow in the official membership of Black trans women who are members of the working class and want to engage in political study with us and want to draw a line in the sand with placating to the powers of the state and desire to fight for the liberation of the Black nation and all working class people. In October 2018, the New Orleans Workers Group organized a mass demonstration to stop the attack on trans people as Trump waged war on trans people. This was to sound the alarm about our collective need to rise up in opposition to the ways in which trans people are attacked by state-sanctioned violence, both immediate and long-term ways. Black trans working class women were involved. For the last 2 years, as an organization that is 4 years old, we have organized a non-corporate pride demonstration to sound the alarm that we elevate the history of Stonewall and the leadership of Marsha P. Johnson and other Black trans women and all LGBTQ peoples. Therefore, as the New Orleans Workers Group prepares for our 3rd annual Pride demonstration, which will be a motorcade this year, we welcome all members of the LGBTQ community to join us. We especially welcome and prioritize space for Black trans women. Our members operate on principles, which we do unapologetically. And though we are not in a place to claim perfection or to be above accountability, we are relentless. And we're relentlessly committed to working on any areas needed to course correct and to rise up to fight another day. That will not change. So, for all who want to operate in the spirit of working class unity, we are open to such, and we look forward to learning and growing our bonds of solidarity as we go together in pursuit of liberation. Forward to LGBTQ liberation. Forward to the liberation of the working class. All power to the people. And our intentional love for working class Black trans women. We are ready to build with you. May you find eternal revolutionary peace. Forward ever, backwards never.